Hello guys, welcome back to Tutor Techie. So in this video, we'll talk about the new ES6 feature that we have. So these are the features we are going to talk about that comes in the ES6 and ES7. So one by one, we'll go through all the features by coding. So let's talk about let and constant keyword first. So when you define a variable using the let keyword, so let's say I have a variable let x equals to 2, and let's say I define a variable, let's say y equals to 2. So what is the difference between let and var? So let's talk about it. So when we talk about let, it's a block scope variable and var is a functional scope variable. What I mean to say with the example, I will explain you. So let's say we have a function like something like this, and inside this variable, let's say this is var x equals to 2. Maybe let's define a variable over here. Let's pass a parameter instead of this. And based on the parameter, we'll do, let's say x is greater than 0. So inside this if variable, we'll define a value y equals to some constant 5. And let's say let sum equals to x plus y. Now if we define this let variable, right, y, and we define in this if block. So if you try to access outside this if block, let's say console.log something y, then you won't be able to access this y variable because we have defined this y using the let keyword and you cannot access outside this block scope. And now if I define a variable like z equals to 4 something, then you can access this z variable outside this if block because var is a functional scope. So this var variable defined in this functional scope, so it will be accessed inside this function, but let can only be accessed inside this if block only. Now let's understand what is constant keyword. So this is the keyword. So when you define, let's say pi value, let's say 3.14. So constant value, when you define using the constant keyword, right, and you assign a value for this variable, you cannot again assign a value to this. So if I try to reassign the value, and it will give you the error. You cannot do like this. But it doesn't mean that you cannot change the value. Let's say you have a reference variable inside this. Let's say x equals to, I have a object kind of thing, x equals to 5, y equals to 4. And you, okay, so let's change this variable name. Let's say object. And if you try to change this x value, this you can do this because you are changing the value inside the object. But if you try to do something like this, obj equals to y equals to 5 or x equals to 4, you cannot do this because you are reassigning the value. You cannot reassign the value to a constant variable. So these are the two new keywords that comes with ES6 feature. Now let's talk about arrow function. So in traditional way, how do we define a function like this? Some function x comma y, and then return x plus y. This is how we do it, right? Or maybe like this, where sum equals to function, and then return x plus y. If we define it as a functional expression, right? This is how we do in a traditional way. Now with arrow function, how we can achieve it? and write like this. This is the arrow function and x plus y in one line. This is the syntax for arrow function. Now there are various. Okay, so this is the parameter that we are using. So define this parameter. Now, if you have only one parameter, let's say you are only passing x, right? So let's say function equals to return x. You don't need to write it return as well. It's only one line away. If you want to put parenthesis, you can provide it, but it's not mandatory. But when you have multiple parameters, you have to provide the brackets. Now let's say we want to manipulate something inside the function, right? And you can put the bracket and then manipulate something, whatever you want to do. Let's say x equals to 5. Y equals to 6. I want to return this x plus y. This is how you can put the curly braces, and then whatever you want to do is a normal like function in a traditional way. Now let's say you want to return something in as an object, right? So you can do like this as well. Put the bracket over here, and if you want to return in JSON object, so you can like this in a normal way. Colon 6 like this. So these are the syntax, multiple syntax you can use in the arrow function. Now there is one more difference between the traditional function and the arrow function. Let's say I have an object where obj equals to, I define x equals to 5 comma y colon, and then define a function. Inside the function will return this dot x okay. So now this object, right, this keyword will refer to this function who is calling that. So whoever calling this function, right, if you're calling it from somewhere else and we're passing to this object, then it will refer to that object only. But when we define as a arrow function, let's say z colon this return, we don't need to write return, we can directly write this dot x. Now this keyword will always refer to this object. So it always, so in case of arrow function, it always checks the parent object. What is the parent of this keyword? So let's say if you have a class, then this keyword will refer to the class. But if you define as a global, right, let's say where obj equals to, let's say function only, right? You define it like this, and if you try to do this, right, now this will refer to the window object, because the parent of this function is the window object only. It's not inside any class or any function or any object. So this will refer to the window object. Now let's move to the next topic, that is a default parameter. So let's remove all this now. default parameters. So what does it mean? So let's say you have a function sum x comma y comma z. So I'm doing it in the traditional way, and then we'll explain it how we can do it easily in the ES6. If let's say y undefined y equals to 5, if z equals to undefined 7, and then return x plus y plus z. Okay. So let's say if user pass only one parameter x, and if user doesn't pass y or z value, then we'll assign it as a default value with 5 and 7. This is how we do it traditional way. Now with ES6, how we can do it? X is there, y equals to 5, and z equals to 7, and then return x plus y plus z. So okay, like this. Now if you call this right, let's say if you pass 3 only, it should return the value 15. Let's say if you pass 3 4 two parameters, then this value should return value 14. So this is what we call the default parameters. Now we don't need to do it in this traditional way. We can easily do it in this using ES6 feature. Now this line, right, this function, you can easily write it like this as let sum equals to x comma y equals to 5 comma z equals to 7, function x plus y plus z. So see, this is pretty good, right? In one line, we remove these all line into one line, replace it in ES6 features. So this is default parameter. So now we have rest parameters. So what is rest parameter? So let me explain you with this above example only. A function sum x comma, you can define whatever name you can define and just define it rest params. If you console right, so the x, so if user pass the value, so let's say user pass 1 comma 2 comma 2 comma 3, right? So we'll get the x value as 1, so this will print 1, and we need to console log for this rest params. So it will give you the array of should have the value 2 comma 3. This is what we call rest params. This is generally useful when we pass the objects. So now let's understand how we can achieve that. So let's say we have an object x4 y5 and z6, right? If you pass this value, so what you need to do over here, so because this is the object, so put the curly braces over here. You will get the value of x in this x. So this value, right, x should match with this keyword, whatever the value is there, and the rest y and z value will be here. So this will be object of y comma y column 5 comma z column 6. So rest params will contain this value, and x will contain 4, because we are passing 4 over here. So this is generally very useful. So let's say we want to use the value of x in this function, and rest of the parameter we want to pass into another function or another child object, right? Then this is very useful. Now let's understand the spread operator. So let's say we have a value or array, maybe a equals to 1 comma 2, and I want to create a array of b which contains 3 comma 4, and I also want to use the array a. What you can do, you can use like dot a. So the final result will be b equals to, so this is b will become like 3 comma 4 comma 1 comma 2. This is how it is. So let's say we want to join two array. Okay, let's say x equals to 1 comma 2. Let's say y equals to 3 comma 4. I want to join these two array, right? So you can do it like this. Should have 3 dots. So x comma dot y. So it will merge x and y and becomes 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4. When you try to do the spread operator on a string, let's say str equals to abc, right? Let's say equals to, and if you use the spread operator on a string, so this array will be like a comma b, with each character it will be spread, comma, sorry, then c. So this is how we can use the spread operator. Now let's move to the next one, string interpolation. Let's say we have a string str equals, and we'll use, for string interpolation we use back tick just below the escape key, this sign. So whatever you want to define, let's say my name is tutor techie, you can visit tutortechie.com. Now if I want these two lines in multiple lines in next line, right? So you can easily do it like this. If you want break in the line, you can do it like this. So it will print the value in these two lines. But in the traditional way, you need to put the \n to put the line in the next line, right? So with this string interpolation, you can easily just press the enter and it will print in the next line. There is one more benefit that you can do. So let's say we have a variable left x equals to 5. You can also do the manipulation in this string interpolation. Let y equals to 6, and I want to print this value, right? So what you can do, let's say in console.log, use the string interpolation, and then x equals to, so now you want to print the value of x, right? So you can use dollar like this, x, and then you want to print the value of y, then again use dollar, and then y, and you want to print the sum as well, right? And the sum of x and y is, now you want to print the value for this, so dollar x plus y. So this is how it works. So you can print the value using dollar, the curly braces. You can also do the manipulation using this dollar and curly braces. So this is string interpolation in ES6. Now let's move to the next one, destructuring assignment. This is very important feature that we have in the ES6. So what is destructuring? So now let's understand this. We have a value object equals to x equals to 5, y equals to 6, comma z equals to 7. Now we want to get the value of x, y, and z. So how do we do it earlier in the traditional way? So we use like var x equals to obj dot x and y equals to obj dot y and var z equals to obj dot z. This is how we do it earlier, right? Now what you can do, you can just write x comma y comma z equals to obj. This keyword, right? This should match with this variable. So whatever value you have in the x, it will become as a variable x equal to 5, y equals to 6, and z equals to 7. Now if you don't want that keyword as a variable, right? You can give a alternate name as well as alias. Let's say you want to give a, b, c. So this is the alias of x, y, z. Now a will contain, it should have 5, b should have 6, and c should have 7. So this is destructuring. So it doesn't only work for the object, it can also work for the array. So let's say we have a variable array equals to 1 comma 2 comma 3. Now you want to destructure or get the value. So you can just write it like a comma b equals array. So it will give the value 1 and 2 in this a and b. If you want the value of c as well, third index as well, so just give c. Here also you can give, you don't need to give the alias because this is also it's a variable. Now if you want, like you don't know the length of the array, right? And it can have 3 values, it can have 4 values. So let's assume we have a t. So you can give the default value as well. So here also you can use the default parameter. Let's say d5. So if user has only 1, 2, 3, then the default value of d is 5. Similarly, in the object also, here also you can do it like this, x equal to 4. Let's say there is no key, or let's not do it for this. So let's say k, right? And we don't have k key in this object, right? And if you want the value for this, so you can give it like 4, something like this. So if user has in the object, if it has the k key value, then it will give the value. If it doesn't have, it will give you the default value 4. So this is how destructuring works. Now let's move to the next topic. Let's see what is the next property, shorthand. So let's understand this. So let's remove all this code now. Let's say we have a variable x equals to 0, y variable y equals to 5 something, and we want to create an object using this x and y, right? So in traditional way, how do we do it? We do it like, let's say var obj equals to, if you want the key x, so we write it like this, comma y colon y, right? Now if your key is same as your variable name, so you can directly write it like var obj equals to x comma y. So this is what we call property shorthand. So you don't need to explicitly specify the key. If your key is same as your variable name, so you can do it like this. Now let's understand, this is for a variable, right? Now let's understand for the function. Let's say we have an object, let or var, anything you can specify. and then let's say you have a full something function, and then return, and anything doesn't matter, right? I just want to explain how it works. Now the same thing you can write in ES6 like obj equals to return 5. So now the function name automatically becomes the key for you. Okay. Over here you don't need to specify the function keyword. Yeah, like this. So this name of the function will automatically becomes the key inside the object. So this is what we have in the properties shorthand. Now let's understand this computed property name. What does it mean? Let's say you have, let's remove all these. Let's say you want to use the variable in place of key, right? So sometimes it happens. Let's say how do you do in the traditional way, right? So let's say my key is a variable. So we do it like this, where x equals to 4. Now the key would, the 0 will become the key over here. Or maybe let's not take the number. Let's say we have str right. Yes. Now how do we assign it to the object? So we need to write like this, str something executed. Okay. Now how we can do it in ES6? We can directly, so let's move this one here. Yeah. Now how do we do it in ES6? You can, while defining the object, right here itself, you can write like x comma y comma, using the bracket, use the str equals to, sorry, not equal, colon, and then tutor. So this will treat as a variable, and whatever the value, it will become as a key. So this is what we call, we're using this bracket. We can define itself in the object. You don't need to explicitly call this line. So this is what we call computed property end. And it can work for the function as well. Over here, you can call the function, return some value, and that value become as a key for you. Okay. That is the method property. So let's explain it as well. Let's say where, or maybe some function. Return, let's say first returning. Okay. I'm just give an example where obj equals to x comma y, because x have the value, so it will become the key as well. And then over here, what do you want to do? Let's say I want to call the foo method, right? And then plus you also want a name as well over here, like this. So you can do like this as well. So whatever function return, it will concat with this name and become as a key for you. Okay. And the method properties, right? Earlier I already explained it in the previous property shorthand. What it does, let's say obj equals to, this is called method properties, like this, comma x comma y this. So this food will become a key and bar will also become a key in this object. So this is called method property. Now let's understand class. What is class? This is very important topic. How we do it in traditional way and how we can do it in ES6. So first let's understand in the ES6 how we do it. How we do in ES6 now. We have a class keyword now. So let's say we have a shape class, and then we provide a constructor for this shape class, just like we do in other programming language. So let's say we have 3 parameters. Let's assign this value, just like we do in Java. And then let's define a method as well. So when you define a method inside the class, you don't need function keyword. So you can directly provide the name, and let's use this x comma y. And then this dot x. So let's call this from here. So we'll call this. So if you want to call the method from inside the class, you can use this keyword, and then dot move x comma y. So I assign the value of id in this id variable, and rest of the parameter x and y I pass it into the method where we assign the value. You can directly assign in the constructor as well. So I'm just explaining you how you can define a method and how you can call a method inside the class. Equals to x, this dot y equals to y. So this is how we do it in ES6. Now let's understand how we can do it in traditional way. Let's say we have shape. So we need to define a function for this. It will have variable id comma x comma y, and then this dot id equals to id, this dot move x comma y, and then outside this method we need to define the method of move, and how we do it. And shape dot type dot move, and then define your method function x comma y, and inside this now you have to use this dot x equals to x, this dot y equals to y. So you need to put this method in the prototype of this shape class, this shape variable. So this will treat as a constructor, and this will treat as a method inside this shape object, right? This is how we do it in traditional way. Now let's understand the inheritance in this class. So now let's say we have a class rectangle. So let's say it will extend shape class. We'll have the constructor. So we have id x comma y, width comma height, and we want to pass this id x and y to the shape constructor, right? So using super keyword, you can pass the value, and the rest will assign it to the rectangle variable, instance variable. Width equals to width dot height equals to height. Okay, now let's create another class. Let's say circle, and it will extend shape again. We'll have a constructor, Again, it will have this id, comma x, comma y, comma, let's say for circle it has radius, right? So now super id, comma x, comma y, and then this dot radius equals to radius. So this is how we can extend the class. Now, if you want to do it in the traditional way, right? Let's see how many lines of code we need to write. So we'll have this rectangle. Need to create a function for this. And then id, comma, x, comma, y, comma, width, comma, height. And then call the constructor of shape, right? And we need to use this shape.call, pass the keyword of this, and then pass the rest of the parameter, and that is id, comma, x, comma, y. Okay, and then here again this dot equals to width, this dot height equals to height. And then we need to use the inheritance as well for, because this rectangle class extends to the shape, right? So in traditional way, how do we do it? To use this prototype and assign the shape constructor. So how do we do it? Object dot create, and then assign this shape constructor and shape prototype, you can say, like this. And then one more line we need to add, prototype dot constructor equals to rectangle. So this is how we need to do it if you want to use inheritance in the traditional way. And similarly for the class as well, for the circle as well, we need to write these line of codes. Now let's understand the static method in the class. So let's understand ever only. Let's say we have this value as well, right? And then using the static keyword, you can find the method. Let's say default rectangle, you can say. And then let's return new rectangle. So if it is a static method, you can directly call it without creating object of this class, right? Say default. So it has x, y as well. So let's say 0, 0. Let's say 100, 200. Yeah. Now you can call this method like where defrec, you can say, equals to rectangle dot default angle, like this. And you can create an instance of this class using new keyword like we do it in the traditional way. So let's say object equals to rectangle, and you can pass the parameter rec1, 0, 0, 200, 300, like this. This will become the instance variable. And if you have any method, let's say normal method we have, say area, okay, return this dot width, dot height. Okay, so you can call using this, sorry, dot area, like this you can call it, similarly like we do it in other programming languages. Okay, I hope this is clear to you. Now let's see what is the other topic we have. We have map. One more thing in the class, right? So I forgot to mention. So we have getter setter in the class as well. So let's understand how we can define getter and setter in JavaScript class, right? So now let's say in this class only, let's define it. We have the static as well. Now let's say I want to set the width, right? So you can use this width as the width, and then this dot let's say give the name, like we do it set, sorry, the camel case, set width equals to, we want to have the getter as well, so we'll use the get keyword, get width, and just return dot width. This is how you can define setter and getter in this class. Okay, now if you want to assign the value, right? So we'll do it like this. Rec object dot, if you use this get width, we'll get the value of, so here you don't need to use the bracket or something, just use as a variable. If you want to set it, rec object dot set width equals to, let's say I want to set the value 200, right? So you can do it like this. This is it from the class. Now let's move to the next topic, that is map. So let's understand what is map. So this is a new keyword in ES6. Let's say we have we can define it using the new keyword map. You can do it like this, and then you can set the value in the map. It's the key value pair, just like we have in Java. So you can define the value like a comma 1, sorry, 1 set b comma 2. If you want to get the value from this, right, so you can use the time dot get a, like this you can get the value of a. If you want to get the size of this map, you can use m dot size. If you want to iterate this map, you can do it like this. Key comma. So here we are using this restructuring. Okay. M dot. So the provide entries method. So there is a method entries. Yeah, and inside this for loop, you can console key and value. You can console, it will give you the value, key and value for this map, whatever it contains, like A, B, and 1 and 2. Okay. Now let's move to the next topic, that is set. Set is similar to what we have in the Java. So let s equals to new set. You can add using add method. Let's say hello has to add tutor. You can also add like this dot add now if you want to get the size of this set, similarly for like map, you can use dot size. It will give you the value of this set, size of the set. Now if you want to check whether particular item contains in this set or not, so you can use has method, and if you do it like hello, this will give you true, so it will be like true. Okay, now if you want to iterate this set, right, so how you can do it, you have a method values key of s dot values using this method, and then you can console your key. This is how it works, set and map. Okay, I hope this set and map is clear. Now the next topic is promise and async and await. We'll discuss these next topic in the next video. Thank you for watching.